Hey everybody, what is going on? So today in this video, let's talk about the brand new CEO of the Walt Disney Company, Mr. Bob Chapek. So it was announced a couple days ago, Iger is stepping down. He's going to stay with the company though until December of 2021 as executive chairman, kind of overseeing the creative aspect of the company. But the brand new CEO, effective immediately, is going to be the former Parks and Resorts and Consumer Products Executive, Mr. Bob Chapek. Now, there's a lot of outrage, okay, in the Disney park community about Chapek becoming the Disney CEO. A lot of doom and gloom. You know, it's the end of Disney as we know it. Oh my God, Chapek is the CEO. Okay. So I want to look at this like with a clear head, right? There's a couple things I want to discuss with you guys. Number one, these executives, these executives, you never know how they're going to govern or how they're going to lead until they're in charge, okay? You know, I don't know if you guys remember, but when Bob Iger was chosen to succeed Michael Eisner, he was really seen as the boring decision, the boring choice. You know, a lot of people felt like Iger was an Eisner yes man. He was just kind of there. He didn't really stand out in his role when he was under Michael Eisner, right? But then when Iger had the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, and had full control, he was anything but a boring executive. I mean, anything but an Eisner yes man. In fact, he undid a lot of what Eisner did. He went in a lot of different directions, and he was very much somebody that, you know, kind of threw us all by surprise a little bit, right? With how he managed the Walt Disney Company. He really was much more of a visionary than we thought he was when he was announced. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. Okay. Another example is Tom Staggs. He was the chief financial officer of the Walt Disney Company for years. He was the head accountant, the head bean counter, and then he was appointed to be the head of the Parks and Resorts. Now, on paper, he should have been the worst, you know, Parks and Resorts executive to ever grace this planet. I mean, he's a bean counter. He's basically, you know, what does this financial guy know about running theme parks? Well, he did a pretty damn good job. Tom Staggs has a great track record, in my opinion, running the Parks and Resorts. And, you know, that's kind of my point here, okay? You don't know these guys until they get into these positions. Now, you might think you hate Chapek. You might think he's done terrible things with the parks, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine. But give him a chance and let him take on this role as CEO and really see what he does as his own man, as his own executive, as his own leader, and see how he kind of you know, guides the ship. We just don't know how he's going to steer the ship. We don't know yet. Okay? He's never been in charge with 100% like, you know, freedom like he will have under this new role. So I urge everyone to have at least an open mind. Okay, at least an open mind. Now, another thing I really want to address here is if you really look at Chapek's, you know, history, like the past 5 years that he's been head of the Parks and Resorts, he actually hasn't been that bad. I mean, I see a lot of anger online about Chapek, and I was kind of going over, you know, everything he's done. It really hasn't been that bad. I mean, there's been good and there's been bad, but for the most part, I mean, we got Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is going to be a great attraction. I think everyone is really excited about that. It looks like a quality addition to both Disneyland and Hollywood Studios. You know, we got the Skyliner over at Walt Disney World. You know, we're getting Avengers Campus over here in California Adventure. We got Mission Breakout, which a lot of fans didn't want upon the announcement, but ended up to be a fan favorite. I mean, it's one of the most popular, you know, attractions in the resort that happened under Bob Chapek, right? There's been a lot of good things that have happened in the parks, you know, under Bob Chapek. Now, there have been some bad things, you know, Pixar Pier, for the most part, a lot of fans feel that was like a cheap overlay. And there's been other things like, you know, the condition of the Walt Disney World monorails and things like that. So it hasn't been a perfect record by any means. But when a lot of fans, kind of go over the top and say this guy is like a disaster, well, I just don't see it that way. I don't see him as a disaster. And since he's been announced as the CEO, I've seen a lot of articles come out, whether it be Variety or Forbes or CNBC, and all these past executives that used to work at Disney, talk about Bob Chapek, and it really surprised me how they talked about this man, because I see so much anger and hate for him online from the fans, and how he's a terrible leader and everyone hates him. But then I hear from former Disney executives or former Disney employees, and they're like, oh yeah, Bob Chapek was well liked. He was smart. He was driven. He knew what he needed to do. And it's just different. It's just the discrepancies between those two worlds is crazy. The people that worked with him seem to like him, and they seem to have a lot of faith in his ability, to run this stuff. And including Bob Iger. Bob Iger. Now, look, I love Bob Iger. He's not a perfect executive, but I think Bob Iger's been phenomenal for the Walt Disney Company. And if he gives his stamp of approval for Bob Chapek, a man that he's worked with on a day-to-day basis, I trust it. I do. And you can call me crazy. Oh, yeah, you're trusting Bob Iger. Yeah, I am trusting Bob Iger. Bob Iger's done a great job for Disney. I do trust his opinion on who he thinks is the best to run the company going forward. And the board nominated Chapek unanimously. So I'm at least based off of that going to have an open mind. Okay, I don't think his history with the parks have been terrible. Not perfect, but not terrible. And it seems like Bob Iger is pretty confident that this is the right guy to run the company. So I'm on board with it, but it is scary though, you guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's always scary when you have uncertainty like this and someone new is coming in. It's always scary. Okay, I was even nervous when Bob Iger took over. We just didn't know who he was. We didn't know how he was going to govern the company. It's always nerve-wracking. Okay, but you know what? I'm going to have an open mind. Keep in mind also that Bob Iger isn't leaving completely. He's going to be here for about another 2 years. He's going to kind of help Bob Chapek in this role. He's going to oversee some of the creative stuff. So there's going to be like a 2-year, transitional period for Chapek, which I think is great. I think that's going to be really beneficial for Chapek and the company in general. But yeah, man, look, a lot of people in the fan community, they just want to pile on Chapek and say he's like the worst thing ever. I'm not going to do that. I don't see that from his past record in the parks. I don't see that from what I'm hearing from former executives and employees at Disney. I'm not seeing that from what Bob Iger has to say about the guy. I'm willing to give Bob Chapek a chance. Let's see what he does. Let's see how he governs the Walt Disney Company. He very well may surprise many of you in a good way. All right, so we'll see. We will see. But what are your thoughts on Bob Chapek becoming the brand new CEO of the Walt Disney Company? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I know there's a lot of you that probably hate it. Comment below if you hate it. I do want to hear from you guys. Let's have a debate. Let's talk about this in the comments below. Thank y'all so much for watching, and as always, have a magical day.